Connecting with us is Kewal Handa, industry expert. Thank you so much for taking time out. To begin with, there's been a lot of interest from the private equity space in the mid-cap pharma sector. There have been a number of deals that have taken place as well quite recently, as well as a complete exit of promoters. What do you think that has led to this sort of enhanced interest, and why are PEs interested now in a complete buyout of these businesses?
So very good morning and thanks for having me in. So during January to September, you're absolutely right. There were total deals about $1.7 billion, the private equity deals, which is about 5 times more that was there in that previous year. So there is sudden spurge of interest in the pharmaceutical, but it's been built up over a period of time. If you ask me, what are the reasons that the PE equity are interested in pharmaceutical industry? 2 or 3. A, there's a lot of respect for the Indian industry. And that they have worked with the Indian people and there's a lot of respect there, A. B, their leverage upon the chemistry is very strong in terms of chemistry leadership and custom manufacturing. And the third thing that has triggered now is the restrictions on the Chinese imports, be it intermediates or be it the APIs. And that has created a sort of an interest in the Indian companies. And of course, now, because of the COVID, the vaccines to come, that will further, push these entire investments by the private equity in the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay, fair enough. So do you think that this post-COVID world opportunity, if you will, for the Indian players has increased globally, and that too is one of the reasons for this high interest from private equity players?
No, I think all the investments that happened quite early. But, in terms of vaccines manufacturing, we almost have the 50% manufacturers of the world vaccines are in India. So if you look at the vaccine base, we have a very strong vaccine base. So there is a natural interest to exploit and take the opportunity of the vaccine manufacturing facilities that we have in India. So there is definitely an interest. Plus, there are companies which would also be coming out with their vaccines. Beyond that, there is a strong interest today in the biopharmaceuticals. There's strong interest in the CRAs and CMOs. And that market is expected to be something like 90 billion in 2030. So there is a definite interest by the private equity firms to get into segments which are the futuristic segments. For example, APIs, they are coming in very well knowing that in China there are restrictions. Now the biopharmaceuticals is something that they want to get into it. So they are very, very selective. There is a global trend, which is very interesting. I'd just like to mention that. Blackstone have joined hands with Novartis and created called Enthos Therapeutics. And what this Enthos Therapeutics will do, it will develop portfolio for cardiovascular candidates. Now, that's very interesting development happening. And we would like to see a similar development happening with Indian companies by the private equity firms.
Sure. What about mid-cap pharma companies as well, Kewal? Let's talk about some of the consolidation you possibly see there. Any such deals where you perhaps see also focus on better return ratios going forward?
Yeah, there's great opportunity there, both in terms of PEs have seen that domestic market is growing and on an average has been on a double digit. And therefore, the interest is a very typical, if you look at what Edwin did with Bharat Serums. What they're trying to do is sort of buy out the entire promoter stake and then put up their own management team and have that, rigor of growth and build in an exponential growth. I think that's the thought process that's going on in a lot of the private equity investment, be it is in Sequent, if you look at it, or JB Chemicals is another example you can look at it, where this type of thought process has gone in. But there is also a thought process, for example, Chris Capital invest just about 10% in TAS and they got a better return. So there is also a thought process in good promoter-driven companies. If we take minority stakes and work with the promoter, you will still get more returns.
Okay, fair enough. So that's on some of those mid-cap names as well. How big an opportunity is manufacturing of the vaccine for Indian pharma? Do you think that some of these tie-ups, once the vaccine is through, are inevitable?
Yes, some of it, of course. We have to see what is the characteristic of the vaccines. If it requires deep freezing, just like the Moderna or Pfizer vaccines, but there may be some logistic challenges. So that's need to be overcome if India has to manufacture these types of newer platform vaccines. But in terms of the older platform vaccine, the AstraZeneca or one from Oxford, there are not challenges, or from vaccines from Russia. Dr. Reddy is already tied up with the Russian manufacturers. So there is no problem there. Only you may have challenge with vaccines requiring deep freeze or cold storage facilities.
All right. I think that's all we have time for this morning. Kewal, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us some of the details and how you see some of the trends evolving in the pharma space. I think we need to take a quick break, but we've got lots more coming up for you. We also have our Chartbuster segment lined up right after this, so do stay tuned.